Out on the Redwood Highway in Nevada, there's nothing but miles of empty desert and dead radio signals. Only one place ever broke the monotony: the Redwood Roadside Motel. People said the place was cursed. They'd whisper stories about Room 9, how it was still occupied, even though no one ever rented it. The legend goes that the old owner, a Mr. Howard's, vanished inside that very room and was never seen again. Most people wrote it off as a spooky story to tell tourists. At least, they did until Evan Miller took the night shift. Evan was 25, new in town, and desperate for cash. The motel manager, the current Mr. Howard, made the job sound easy. Just stay at reception until 6 a.m., he'd said, his eyes serious. Don't wander off. Don't go near room 9. And no matter what happens, don't answer if someone knocks after midnight. Evan just laughed. Why? Is the motel ghost gonna try to check in? Howard didn't crack a smile. He just stared at Evan for a long, uncomfortable moment. I'm serious. Don't open that door. Night fell quickly in the desert. By midnight, every room in the motel was empty except for room 4. A trucker had checked in earlier, taken a quick shower, and gone straight to sleep. Everything was quiet, completely normal, until 12:17 a.m. A sharp knock echoed through the reception. Knock. K-N. K. N1 was standing at the glass door. Evan leaned forward, squinting at the grainy security monitor. He could just make out the figure of a woman, her head bowed down, with long, black hair hiding her face. He picked up the intercom. Ma'am, we're fully booked for tonight. I'm sorry. Slowly, she lifted her face, just a little. Her lips were pale, almost blue, and her eyes, something about them was just wrong. Room 9, she said, her voice a soft, chilling whisper. Evan froze, his hand hovering over the intercom button. I can't open that room. The woman tilted her head to the side, way too far to be natural. Then she whispered again, I'm already inside. Just as she said it, the security screen glitched. For half a second, she vanished completely from the frame. Then the camera went black. Evan tried to convince himself it was just a technical problem, a faulty wire. But he couldn't ignore the sudden, deep chill that filled the air. Something felt terribly wrong. At 1:06 a.m., the old rotary phone on the desk rang, its shrill sound cutting through the silence. Evan picked it up. Redwood Motel, how can I? A girl's voice, young and terrified, cried out from the other end. Please, help me. He locked me in room 9. Evan's blood ran cold. Who locked you in? He asked, his voice trembling. There was a crackle of static, and then a whisper that sounded like it was right next to his ear. The owner, Evan slammed the phone down. His hands were shaking uncontrollably. He frantically searched through the old files at the front desk, finally finding the record for room 9. It was thick with guest complaints from years ago, screams heard in the middle of the night, knocking coming from inside the locked room, guests fleeing at 3 a.m. without even asking for a refund. The last entry was a newspaper clipping. Owner disappeared inside room 9. Case closed. A drop of sweat trickled down Evan's forehead. This wasn't a prank. Just after 2, at 2:18 a.m., the trucker from room 4 burst into the reception. He was wearing only a pair of jeans, and he was shaking violently. "You heard it too, didn't you?" he whispered, his eyes wide with terror. Evan could only nod. The trucker pointed a trembling finger down the dark hallway behind him. "She was standing at the foot of my bed. Long black hair, a white dress. Her feet weren't touching the floor." Evan's heart was pounding against his ribs. "Did she say anything?" The trucker swallowed hard, his throat dry. "She asked, 'Why did you leave me in the basement?'" Before Evan could even process that, the lights in the motel began to flicker. Click, click, click. One by one, the doors to the empty rooms down the hallway started unlocking and creaking open, revealing nothing but darkness inside. The trucker let out a scream. "I'm not staying another second." He bolted out of the motel and into the night, leaving Evan completely alone. At exactly 3:33 a.m., the hallway camera flickered on by itself. Motion detected. Room 9. Evan stared at the screen, paralyzed with fear. The door to room 9 was slowly swinging open. The room beyond was pitch black. Then something stepped out. A small shadow, the size of a child. It was followed by a second, taller shadow. Then a third. They moved like broken marionettes, their heads twitching at unnatural angles, their joints bending the wrong way. Evan slammed his hand on the monitor, shutting it off. He couldn't watch anymore. But a moment later, the motel phone rang again. With a shaking hand, he answered. A distorted whisper slithered through the line. "Come to room 9. Evan, we don't like waiting." The voice was not human. Evan grabbed the motel's old master key from a hook on the wall. He didn't want to go, but it felt like some invisible force was pulling him, dragging him toward the hallway. Each step he took felt colder than the last. The air grew heavy, thick. He finally reached room 9. The door was already cracked open. He pushed it, and the smell hit him first, a heavy stench of decay, mold, and old blood. Inside, the room was rotting. The wallpaper was peeling in damp strips. The carpet was torn, and in the center of the floor lay a small child's shoe. Then he saw another, and a third. He swept his flashlight across the room, and the beam landed on the closet door. A scratching sound was coming from inside. Slowly, cautiously, Evan pulled the door open. It wasn't a closet. It was a trap door leading down into darkness. The basement was a nightmare. It was cluttered with old, broken toys, decaying furniture, and dozens of faded photographs of children pinned to the walls like trophies. But there was something far worse. In the corner, There was a bed with leather restraints on the posts. Rusty chains lay coiled on the floor, and the mattress was covered in dark, ugly stains. On the dusty floor beside the bed lay a diary. Evan picked it up. He flipped to the final page, the writing shaky and desperate. It read, "They won't let me leave. The children I hurt, they keep me here. I hear them every night, scratching, waiting. Room 9 is their door." It was signed M. Howards, the missing owner. Evan's blood turned to ice. From right behind him, he heard a tiny, high-pitched giggle. He turned around. Slowly, the woman from the camera was standing inches from his face, her eyes black pits, a broken, jagged smile stretching across her lips, and behind her, at least 6 ghostly children stood silently, their eyes fixed on him. The woman whispered, her voice like scraping stone, "It's your turn to stay." Evan screamed. He scrambled up the basement stairs, but the hallway outside seemed to stretch on forever. As he ran, every door slammed shut behind him. The lights in the ceiling burst one by one, showering him in sparks and darkness. The footsteps of the children grew faster, closer, their chilling whispers right at his heels. He could feel their cold breath on his neck. He dove for the reception area, slammed the front door shut, and fumbled with the lock. He finally twisted it shut and collapsed against the door. Outside, the first faint light of dawn was breaking over the desert. Through the glass, he could see the figures. They had stopped at the edge of the hallway, their shadows long and distorted. They couldn't cross the threshold into the light. The woman tilted her head, that same unnatural angle, and smiled a final, terrifying smile. "We open at midnight." Then, as the sun rose higher, they all vanished. The next morning, the police found Evan unconscious on the side of the highway, dehydrated but alive. The officers went to investigate the Redwood Motel. They found room 9 empty. The basement was gone. There were no photographs on the walls, no diary, no toys. It was as if none of it had ever existed. Everything was gone, except for one thing, left sitting perfectly in the middle of the reception desk, a key card for room 9. And on the back, written in what looked like fresh ink, were 3 simple words: "See you tonight."